So I'm Belinda, and I've spent the last 15 years of my life thinking about the power of images and how images shape who we are and how we see the world. And in that time I've been thinking about this, a couple things have changed. The first is that where at one time in history, only a few of us, only a few people of privilege had the access and power to create and distribute images. Now, all of us do, right? Thanks to the affordability and access of digital technologies, of the internet, of smartphones, of Facebook, all of us can create and distribute images. And because of that, images have become the primary currency through which we understand ourselves and the world around us. And central to how I think about images is a concept of naked versus nude, and that really comes from someone named John Berger, who in the 70s did a documentary series for the BBC called Ways of Seeing, which later became a book. And in that documentary series, John Berger argues that, looking at European oil paintings of the tradition of the nude, he argues that although there were people in these paintings without clothes, they weren't really naked, because naked is what it is. It reveals itself, it's flawed, and it's beautiful. But rather they were nude. They were two-dimensional objects to be consumed, to be looked at. They were put on display. And as such, they were a form of propaganda, not people, but propaganda there to validate the power and the privilege of the onlooker, the people who at that time had the good fortune to be able to create and distribute and consume images. So naked versus nude. Flash forward to today. We have something like Facebook, which is, of course, the third largest country on the planet in population. And this is where all of us every day put ourselves on display, right? And it really harks back to something like Flickr, which has 6 billion digital images all created by us. Share your photos, watch the world. And images have become so central that they're replacing text even on the internet. So now Google has a feature where if you drop an image in, it'll bring up like-minded images. So we don't even need the written word anymore to search Google. So what does this mean? So that means that historical events, both in our personal lives and in the world around us, are now being communicated through images, which are all competing to create a sense of reality in the onlooker, created by us, you. So if you look up something like 9/11 in Google, in half of a second, you get 19 million images, in half of a second. And if you want to look up something like Pearl Harbor, which wasn't that long ago in historical terms, you get only 2 million. And if you look up the Battle of Liege, which started World War I, you get 180,000. So that gives you a sense of how images now are the way we understand the world. And some of these images we can't get out of our heads. But many of them were created by people as propaganda. So this is a rather famous one, which is a fake. This never happened. This is obvious propaganda. And if you look at this one, I don't know if you can see it, but his book's turned over. Propaganda, not naked, but nude. And all sides are guilty. This is an image that was distributed when John Kerry was running for president, but it wasn't real. It was created by someone who took these two images and folded them together into what looked like a newspaper story to create a reality as a form of propaganda. And none of this is new. This is an image from Stalin's regime, and you can see there's a man on this image who was simply erased as a way to erase him from history. This is Israel's attack of Beirut in 2006. I think you can see that in one of these images, the smoke has been darkened to make the attack appear more aggressive. And this is the president of France, Nicolas Sarkozy. His love handles were erased. Again, not naked, but nude. And this is Rihanna. If you remember, she was in a domestic violence, abusive relationship a couple years ago. And the image that was circulated through the press had the markers of that abuse erased. Some of them are funny. Here's another one. And we all blame advertising, right? Advertising doesn't. We know they do it. So this is Beyonce and L'Oreal, right? And L'Oreal, who put this box together, put this campaign together, lightened her skin tone, presumably to make it more marketable. But then you look at this image of this young woman, and this is from her Facebook profile. What did she do? She did the same thing. So naked versus nude. What am I saying? I'm saying now more than ever, we have the power to create and distribute images. We have that privilege. So what do we want to do with it? Do we want to create a world where we're moving towards authenticity? Or do we want to create a world where we're moving towards greater duplicity? So what kind of world do you want? It's a big question. You're in charge. You have the authority now. You have the power to create and distribute images. What kind of world do you want? Thanks.